Well, I've got my pad that I point at you as I do this, as you're accustomed to by now, and the first thing it says on the pad is respond to James. I'm going to scrub that off. I have no idea how to respond to that most extraordinary launch speech, James. We will escape to a place where they start falling over water in the next couple of weeks, and we will spend a day working through much of what you have said. I'll respond to only one thing, and James very, very generously called me Tasmania's leading public intellectual. I'm not even in the top 10, although when I look around here, most of the people in the top 10 are in this room, and that of course includes James himself. That was a very, very generous thing to say, James, albeit completely incorrect. I need to thank a whole pile of people, and I'll beg your indulgence while I do this. The first person I need to thank, of course, is my wonderful wife, Anna, who puts up with all my hopelessness around the house, and who is my best critic, who has already told me that 2/3 of the book is pretty good. And you know, we've had a long journey through life. It's had some tripwires along the way, and we're still sailing along towards what is, of course, one day inevitable. I need to thank my publisher, Shoestring Press of Nottingham, England. It is a cause of considerable wonder why a publisher residing in Nottingham, England, should have thought it worthwhile publishing a book of such saturatedly Tasmanian poetry. There cannot be one person in England who would have the slightest interest in this book. I doubt whether there are more than one or two on the mainland of Australia who would have the slightest interest in this book. And in fact, much of what's in this book is of course going to be incomprehensible even to many Tasmanians, which I would rather not to be the case, but I have to acknowledge that it is so, because this is not an easy book. And the first and third sections in particular, I think, are not the sort of thing that you're going to sit down, go outside of here, sit on the bench in Barcelona and read in half an hour. I need to thank Chris and Janet and Hobart Bookshop for yet again allowing me to invade their premises. I'm sure they make no money out of an event like this. It's a labour of love. There's alcohol down there. There's alcohol down there which the bookshop has supplied, not me, and the only acknowledgement of the fact that this is me and not someone else. They have even been thoughtful enough to put beer on, for which I'm also extremely grateful. I wish to thank, he's not here, he doesn't tend to go to events very much now. I wish to acknowledge the contribution to Tasmanian literature of Peter Macro, who has just brought out the very last edition of Blue Giraffe. And this is a cause of some sadness. There is a crisis, I think, in literature in Tasmania, and the crisis consists primarily in the lack of infrastructure for publishing outlets. Not only that, but primarily that. So every time a small, humble, but quite stylish little poetry magazine shuts down, as Blue Giraffe just has, then that constitutes a small crisis for us. And Peter has done this again as a labour of love. He goes into debt every time he brings out an edition of Blue Giraffe and of Prospect, but without the sort of selflessness of people like Peter and Ralph Westman and others who have provided infrastructure for Tasmanian literature. There would be no literature, because the other people I want to acknowledge are is the literary community of Hobart, specifically in Tasmania, more broadly. Writing is a lonely activity, but Tasmania's scribblers do so much to provide the enterprise with a very necessary social dimension. And again, that requires a capacity to get out of the studio and to be generous and to be inclusive. I need to thank and acknowledge several mentors and collaborators, many of whom, to my shame, I have insufficiently or not even at all acknowledged in the book itself, because many of the poems that are in the book stem directly from collaborations with other artists and with thinkers. So I'd like to acknowledge the contributions of Tony Thorne, with whom I've now collaborated on 3 projects, Tom O'Hearn, Nat Smith, who was here, Crystal Berg, Ian Parry, who was here and who didn't realise that he was a collaborator, but who was, Jane Kwan, Richie Wastel, Jeff Malpass, Matt Newton, and a particular thanks to Ben Walter, who I rely on now to supply me with guideposts to the Australian literary landscape, which I no longer personally understand. The only other, I'll stop this boring stuff very shortly, the only other person that I want to acknowledge is my son, Tom. Last time I did this, the last time I launched a full collection of poetry, Tom was serving alcohol down behind the bar, and the greatest sadness of today is that Tom is not here to do the same thing again.